Hey everybody, it's Justin Goldsboro again, back with another 52 Comments of
Hi.
So Holly's joining us today. We're going to talk a little about what she's doing down in, now you're not in Dallas, you're in San Antonio, right?
I'm in Corpus
Corpus
Christi,
Christi, all right.
as
Gotcha.
south as you can get without being on in over the border.
Nice, there you go. Good deal. We're learning my Texas geography here as we go through this conversation. So we've got 4 questions for Holly, just like we always do. 2 about what she does professionally, 1 about something fun, and then 1 about a cause she's passionate about. So Holly, you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Right on. Okay, so question 1. So I love this title you have at your job. You're Chief Inspiration Officer, right?
Yes.
Of Neovia Solutions. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Very
Okay.
good.
I always want to make sure people know what your website is. So what's your website for Neovia?
It's neoviasolutions.com.
Okay.
Neovia.
.com. Okay, cool. So tell us about the company and your role, but also your website has, okay, so in the description on Neovia's website, it says 2 things, which I love these things. It says, A, we don't just throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks around here. Love hearing that. Second thing, we don't suffer from bright, shiny object syndrome. Okay, everybody watching this has to know somebody that does suffer from bright, shiny object syndrome. So tell me about the philosophy, too, like behind the company. Just tell us what it's all about.
Well, the reason I started the company was because I saw a lot of businesses and companies getting into the space early on that they just really looked like they were struggling to figure out what the purpose was for being there. I heard early on businesses saying that didn't have any effect, it didn't work for them, that it wasn't worthwhile, it wasn't worth their time or the investment. And being in a medium-sized city, it's interesting because I could watch the national trends and know that in 2 to 3 years, this was going to be trending in my city. These were going to be the concerns that I was going to be facing in my city.
Right.
And so I tried to really position us ahead of that and tried to address the underlying concerns before businesses in our city had them. So what we've done is basically said, look, you can't do this unless you have some kind of objective. You have to have a goal.
Right.
So that's kind of what we meant by the whole, let's not throw spaghetti at the walls and see what sticks.
Yep.
Let's have you're going to spend $3,000 on a billboard and just kind of wonder if maybe it works, or you're going to put your nephew in charge of your print ad budget. That's not the way social should work either. There has to be a strategy behind it. And the bright, shiny object syndrome was people would come up to us and just be like, hi, what's Foursquare? I need to be on Foursquare. What's Facebook? I heard I got to be on Facebook. So we had a lot of people saying, what's the next big thing? What's the next big thing?
Right.
When they really weren't even participating today. And so we kind of built our core philosophy around the same thing. I mean, we read Groundswell. We thought it was amazing. And we thought this is the way it should be done. And this is the way it should be done for all businesses, not just craft or
Right.
Coke, but this is how it should be done for small businesses too. And so we wanted to be able to provide that to small and medium businesses, just like big businesses were getting from the larger agencies.
Yeah. I love I love the spaghetti thing. Like we call it around here, like put your hands together and pray, or the pay and pray model.
Yeah.
So, I love that idea. I think that's one of the things that I tell people all the time. Like, I did a lot of social for corporate America before, but when I came to Fleischman, I really realized the whole, and it's simple, you'd think you'd know it, but the whole tie it to an objective. What are your company goals? Okay. Let's tie it to that. So,
and shouldn't it affect your bottom line?
Right.
If you expect your print advertising or your television advertising to eventually impact your bottom line, why shouldn't social as well? Why does it have to be this loose, touchy-feely, warm, fuzzy thing? Why can't it be tied to a hard objective like increasing your leads or increasing brand awareness or driving retail foot traffic?
Right.
So those are the kinds of, real objectives, not, we want to, we want to be cutting edge. That's not one of the objectives we offer our clients.
Right, and I got to ask you, I'll deter from the questions for just a little bit. As far as like starting a company, like what is there any one piece of advice? I always ask people when I interview them here that have started a company or they're leading a company that you would give people around that.
I would say we did a lot of things right. I keep saying we. I had a business partner, but we decided to go separate ways a few months ago. Just because I think something that a lot of partnerships face, which is at the end of the day, in a small business, there's not a lot of revenue to split.
Right, gotcha.
So it's kind of a one-person thing, I think.
Yeah.
But the things that we did right were we kept our day jobs for the first 6 months. We built up a clientele, and then we made the leap. I left. We incorporated in August of 2009. And I left my full-time job in marketing in February of 2010. So it didn't take as long as I thought it would, but being able to be cash flow positive from the get-go was a really, really big deal for us. And we don't run off of debt either. We take on zero business debt. We're completely organic in terms of growth. There's something that we need to do. We need to have the cash on hand to do it. We're not going to borrow it.
Right.
And that has put us in a really solid position, especially inside of this economy. And that's something that seems very antithetical inside of our angel VC-driven.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's a different mentality.
I don't want to give any part of my money back to somebody. I want it to be mine. And I want to give it back to my customers and my clients. And I want to be in charge of my company 100%. And when you're worrying about whether or not you're going to be able to pay credit card bills or make a payment on a loan payable or a line of credit, I feel like it compromises the core philosophy of what it is that you might be trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point of view. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, so the second question I want to ask you is, and this is, I'm saying this from experience because I've seen you do it at a lot of different conferences. I mean, I like to live tweet conferences, but you're one of the most avid live tweeters I've ever seen at any conference. And I can still find people everywhere. I mean, I definitely feel like there's value in that, thought leadership value, networking value, and on and on. But I definitely can still I could walk out right now and find you people that, don't see that, right? Or they don't get it. It seems like Twitter is still hard for people to get. So can you talk some about the value of what have you gained from, live tweeting? Because that's something that is really easy and simple for people to do. And I feel like there's a core group of people that love it and see the value in it. Yeah. And then it hasn't totally caught on like I thought it was going to, 2 or 3 years ago. So, sorry, long question, but.
The value in live tweeting for me is really that relationship building. I can't emphasize enough the kinds of relationships I've been able to build at conferences. For me, that's the most I get out of a conference. The material's great, yes, but I feel like a product of my generation. I'm kind of shy in person, but online, it's very easy for me to talk to people because I can find our common interest immediately.
Right.
And so being able to engage with people and then go up to them after, engage with them on Twitter and then go up to them afterwards and meet them, it's amazing. I met someone from NASA from live tweeting a panel, and I'm going to be able to use that for one of my clients who's trying to target the layoffs in Houston to come down and become business startups for their company. And so it's very direct in my mind that I don't know where this relationship's going to go, but I know I'm going to be able to use it at some point. At some point down the line, one of my clients, one of my interns, myself, even one of my family members might need whatever connection this is that I'm able to get. And so to me, it's very clear cut, especially when I see relationships like that develop. Especially since I'm sitting here with you, having met you on Twitter,
right.
And then getting to put it together by meeting you at a conference is great. And every time I live tweet, I increase my followers. And you hear people all the time, how do I get more fans? How do I get more followers? Be a resource. And that's what I'm doing is I know that if I get out there and I be helpful and I be resourceful, then it's going to come back to me. And it's going to come back to me in the form of more followers, better relationships with people. And, like every time I go to a conference, my clout score goes up like 20 points. It's crazy. I get a lot of retweets, and I get a lot of replies, and that's really awesome. There's just a part of me that I think comes from having grown up the right way inside of the social media space, that I've been told that I'm supposed to be helpful and that I'm supposed to share as much of this stuff as possible. And that's the way that this thing works. That's the way social works, is we share as much as we know. If you're unhappy with the way that people use Facebook, then teach them how to use it the right way. That's how you cure that. And aside from all of that, it's how I take notes.
It is a great note. Okay, I'm glad you said that. It is a great note-taking.
It is,
method.
because if I have
is.
to condense it down to its essence, which I have to do to get it inside of 140 characters, then I know I'm actively processing at the same time. So sometimes people are like, "How can you be taking?" Because I am like a fire hose. When I do my live tweeting, it's just
Right.
There's tons of it, and people are like, "How can you even pay attention to what's going on?" That is me paying attention. I could zone out and be thinking about something completely different if I wasn't sitting there actively trying to condense it down and take the meatiest parts of it and communicate it to other people.
I think it's funny you say that too, because I grew up learning the same way. Like, if you looked at my notebooks in history class or whatever, they were just covered with notes, but that's how I learned, was like by writing. Writing it made me, to your point, pay attention the whole time. And it made me learn
absolutely.
it. So
that's
I
how
totally
I used to study. I would just write it.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally see that benefit. I think that's one of the most underrated benefits of doing it. I like the other thing too you said about it being tangible, and not just, hey, did you get a lead at a conference and now you're working with them, right? Like, maybe you met somebody that down the road you can ask a question a client has to, and they'll give you an answer. I mean, that's the example I always use. Is I've met people on Twitter that our clients have had questions we don't know how to answer. I asked the group of people, that are my followers, a lot of who I met at conferences, live tweeting, and sometimes they provide solutions that save us money and allow our clients to get the results they need. That happens frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone asked me today, I was giving a seminar, and someone asked me today, do you know anyone who does Drupal? And I was like, no, but let me hop on Twitter and ask.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I can find you somebody immediately.
Yeah, to me that's the way I work. It's intuitive to me to do it that way.
Yep. And I should tell you guys, by the way, Holly on Twitter is Holly Hoffman, 2 L's, 2 F's, correct?
That's right.
Nice. Okay, yeah, definitely follow her. I mean, anytime she's at a conference, you're going to learn a ton just watching her stream. So
I'm going to pay $1,000 to be somewhere. I want everyone to get as much of it as possible.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so question 3, something a little more fun or off topic. So you have a blog called worklovelife.com, and you did a cool blog series on it. I'll be honest, I read some of the posts, not all of them, but it's called Letters to a Teenage Girl. And
it really wasn't targeted at your demographics.
There you go. Okay. See, but I still found something in it. I still got something from it. But so you mind sharing us the thought process behind that? And also, you mentioned Clueless in one of the posts, so let's hear your favorite, scene from the movie or a favorite character.
I decided to do that series because, well, I'm having a really hard time figuring out what to blog about sometimes. Mm-hmm. Being a business owner starts to kind of limit what you're allowed to talk about. It's hard for me to talk about my struggles as a business owner because I don't want it to undermine my clients' confidence in me.
Exactly.
And I don't want to talk about personal things because I don't want again, I don't want it to undermine my client's confidence in me. So I thought, well, one of my friends had a 13-year-old, a daughter who was turning 13. And I thought to myself, man, I wish that I could go back and tell myself so many things. I'm such a confident woman now, but when I was a 12 or 13-year-old girl, I had the awkwardness and the gangly and the, need to be accepted, and I was such a dork. And so I just kind of started writing these letters a little bit to myself and a little bit to my friend's daughter. That if there were a few things I could pass on to her, that maybe she wouldn't have to learn herself the way that I did, that I think she could get past a lot of the BS basically that I had to go through. And it was a fun series. I lost a lot of subscribers doing that series. It was interesting to see sort of I'd get these like unsubscribe notifications, and I lost maybe like 15 people from my RSS feed. But I got way more compliments than I got people leaving, so it was good. And then you asked me my favorite
Clueless character or moment in the movie, because if you go and read the most recent post up there right now, there's some Clueless references in it.
I love that movie. I don't know why. Every time it's on, I'll watch it. And I think it has to do partly because I'm a Jane Austen fanatic and have been since my teen years, and it's based very loosely on Emma by Jane Austen, and so I really like that. I always really enjoyed the Paul Rudd character, the older brother / love interest.
And he's from Kansas City. Just throwing it out there.
Wow. And I always think it's really interesting to see where Paul Rudd ended up. He kind of was this like teenage heartthrob back then, and today he's like this really wacky guy. If you've ever seen any of the stuff that he's done with a group called Stella Comedy, it's two of the guys who used to be on Kids in the Hall, and it's freaking hilarious. Just go hit up YouTube and watch a couple Stella Comedy videos.
Okay, we'll do it.
Circa 2003, hilarious stuff. But in your email, you asked me what my favorite character from a movie was. And it wouldn't be Clueless. I love, and I keep meaning to write a blog post about this, Tess McGill from Working Girl. Hands down, favorite character in a movie. I love that movie. I think there's so much that young professional women can learn from that movie. I feel like there's this direct line. I mean, the movie was made in like 1986 or something, and the hair and you see Joan Cusack's character with like the purple, eyeshadow up to here.
It's totally 80s, yeah.
Oh, big time. But I feel like as Gen Y, a lot of people think like we're going through this stuff for the first time. But I watched that movie and I feel like it's exact same thing, Like we're all exactly where we were like 25 years ago.
Right, there's definite similarities. Yeah, that's a really good movie. I've seen that movie a bunch of times too. What is it at the end? I love when the Trask guy, the main guy, at the end, it figures out that Melanie Griffith, that Tess is the one who came up with the idea, and not Sigourney Weaver's character.
Yeah,
and he's like, so why don't you get your... And then he looks over at Melanie Griffith and he goes, what did you call it? And she goes, bony ass. And he's like, oh yeah, bony ass, out of here.
There are so many great one-liners from that movie. Like, I've got a mind for business and a bod for sin. Is there anything wrong with that? And you're just like, yes!
Yeah, and Alec Baldwin's in that too, right?
Yeah, Alec Baldwin, and he's skinny.
Alec Baldwin and Harrison Ford. That is a great movie.
It is a phenomenal movie. So if you haven't seen it, see it. Now I have to go write that blog post before somebody else does.
Nice. Okay, so one more question, and then you can go write that blog post. The last question is always reserved for you to tell us about a cause or something you care a lot about. So, what's your passion? What would you say it is?
If you've read my blog for a long time, it's something I'm very open about. I've been in recovery for about 4 years now, from alcoholism. And so alcohol and drug abuse is something I'm very passionate about, and that I'm very vocal about. If you or someone you think they might have a problem with drinking or a problem with drugs, there are 12-step groups in your town. There is a council on drug and alcohol abuse in your town. And, just picking up the phone and talking to someone who's gone through something like that can really be helpful. I think one of the things that scares people the most is that they don't know what to expect.
Right.
Or they don't know whether or not they have a problem or if it's something that they'll have to live with their entire lives. And people who are in recovery are usually very open about their experiences, especially where it might help other people. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call one of those things, because people will share with you what they were like, what they've been through, and what your resources are. And there are a lot of resources out there.
Holly, is there anything good, really good online, like a good starting point for people to check out, or?
Off the top of my head, if you just Google the Council for Drug and Alcohol Abuse.
Okay.
I'm not sure what their website is, but that's a good place to start. And again, if you're looking, if you're looking for that sort of thing, just look up one of your area 12-step groups. Quick Google searches, you'll be amazed at how much you can find.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. I mean, I think you're right in any situation, and it makes sense on that topic too. Like sometimes just finding somebody who's been through what you've been through can be like the most. It can make you feel so much better about the situation. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I blogged about it when I had my first anniversary for being sober, and I had a lot of people email me, and I thought that was really nice. People who were looking for help.
Right.
And there are local resources wherever you are. The tiniest towns even will have lots of resources available.
Cool. That's awesome of you to share. I mean, it's a totally different thing, but when I was in college, I used to have really bad panic attacks. And I remember, like, for me, the best thing that ever happened to me was my mom bought me a book about this topic, because it basically told me, like, you're not the only one dealing with this.
Yeah.
And it is so weird how, like, I don't know if that was your case, but for me, I definitely felt like I was dealing with a unique situation that no one else had been through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've heard it called terminal uniqueness.
Yeah. As soon as I opened a book and read that other people had gone through the same thing, I was like, oh, well, they made it through it. So
yeah, it can be such a relief, and with something like alcoholism and drug addiction, it's almost that part of your brain operates a little bit differently. And so it can be such a relief to find people whose brains work the same way that yours works. And you don't feel like, you're speaking Greek to people anymore. It all makes sense finally. So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with us. Really appreciate it. And one more time, it's Holly Hoffman on Twitter, all one word. And your website is, remind us again, Neovia, Neovia solutions.com.
That's right.
Awesome. Thanks, Holly.